morning. What a beautiful group of folks. We're going to get started, and we are thrilled to have you all here. I'm Marcia Hansen with the El Segundo Chamber of Commerce and a proud Rotarian since the early 90s, age myself. In 1957, five members of this community, Harry Weber, Sam Douglas Sr., Sam Douglas Jr., Floyd Carr, and Pat Scott, along with a guest speaker, were meeting at the George E. Gordon Clubhouse for the first Good Morning Breakfast. And here we are, 57 years later, enjoying this wonderful event to a packed house. Thank you all for helping continue this community tradition. I know we have members of the Douglas family and from Douglas Mortuary here with us today. Happy to have you all. And we have members of the Floyd Carr family back there, even with Floyd's grandchildren and great-grandchildren. In fact, if you all get a little bored and you need a coloring book and some crayons, Milo and Nora and Luna can hook you up back there. So just go see them in the back corner for merch. I think that'd be fun. So please join me in welcoming the president of the El Segundo Rotary Club, Gilda Dykman.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this 57th annual event that Rotary has been doing. And we want to just thank you for coming and supporting our community and our event every year. And we look forward to many, many years seeing all these faces, beautiful faces here. And we just want to wish you a happy Good Friday, happy Easter, and just a happy spring season. So let's get going on this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilda. I would now like to introduce, first of all, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mayor Pro Tem Chris Pimentel, and remain standing for the invocation, led by Reverend Dinah Ferguson. Mayor Pro Tem, it's all yours.
Thank you. If you will face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Loving God, we come to you today mindful of all you have given us. We give you thanks this morning for this time together at the Mayor's Good Friday breakfast. And we give thanks to you for the food that sustains our lives and pray for those who are in need. We give you thanks for family and friends, the joy and companionship we share. And we pray for those who are alone. We give you thanks for faith, the hope that fills our lives, and we pray for those who struggle with doubt and fear. Most especially today, we give you thanks for your Son. Help us to use all your gifts to us in love, with love, for the love of your world as Jesus commanded us to do. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Dinah, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel. And I would like to give thanks to the Purdue Boilermakers who tip off at 4:30 today. Go Boilers. It is my pleasure to introduce our dignitaries this morning. First of all, El Segundo Mayor, El Segundo Mayor Drew Boyles. Not enough coffee this morning, Drew. El Segundo Mayor Pro Tem Chris Pimentel. El Segundo Council Member Carol Perstick. El Segundo Council Member Lance Giroux. And El Segundo Council Member Ryan Baldino. We also have with us today, because it started later, El Segundo City Clerk Tracy Weaver. She was so happy, got an extra hour's sleep. El Segundo City Manager Daryl George. And our Deputy City Manager Barbara Voss. And we have our brand new, really brand new Fire Chief, Chief George Avery. Welcome, Chief, to your first Good Friday breakfast. Hope it's first of many to come. We have Scott Houston, immediate past president of the West Basin Municipal Water District Board of Directors. We have El Camino College Board of Trustees President Tricia Murakawa. El Segundo School Board, Board of Education President Meredith Beachley. We have our Board of Education Vice President Frank Glenn. Board of Education member Tracy Miller-Zarnicki. And Board of Education member Daima Wheaton. Everyone's here. This is important. We need to have a survivor. What do they call that in Congress, where you have those somewhere else in town? We need that person here, because everybody's here today. We have Lily Craig, our El Segundo Chamber Chair of the Board. And I'd like to introduce our host today, Marisol Herrera in the Automobile Driving Museum. I think the folks are back here. And we have some former mayors. They will be introduced in just a bit. So actually next. So please join me in welcoming our current El Segundo mayor and our wonderful El Segundo mayor from the most important 5 square miles in the world, El Segundo Mayor Drew Boyles.
Well, I've been called a lot of things. Blah, blah. Right, honey? You can add that one to the list. I want to acknowledge my colleagues. It's so wonderful to see Mayor Bush just in from Portugal. Let's give him a round of applause. Mayor Bill Fisher, where you at, Bill? It was great catching up with you. And Mayor Carl Jacobson, thank you so much for being here, sir. I also want to acknowledge Helen Carr, the wife of the founder of this breakfast, Floyd Carr. Helen, let's give it up for Helen and her family. Thank you. Geez, I'm already getting teary-eyed. It's been wonderful to be up here and to be your mayor. I'm so honored. I'm going to be really brief, but you know, this time of year, this time of year is, you know, you think about spring, you think about hope, eternal hope, and that's what Easter's all about. And other holidays, and it's hard not to think about being just so grateful for this city, for the role that I've had the opportunity to serve in, to meet wonderful people, to help shape this city, to work with incredible colleagues, both at the council level, staff level, regionally. It's just incredible. And I was talking to Eric and Bill and Carl just before the breakfast about what's it like when you're on the other side, and you know how much you actually miss it, because it's just a wonderful experience. So I've absolutely relished that. I want you all to know that. And I am grateful not only for this city, this community that helped raise my oldest boys, Ryan and Pat, when I came here as a single dad 7 years ago. They helped raise those kids of mine, these wonderful kids. And I'm so grateful for my family. Lee, thank you. Bren, my wonderful daughter. Merrick, my son, my youngest. My mom, Val. Patrick, my second oldest. Ryan, my oldest. Where's Dylan? Dylan, thank you. Did I get all my kids? There's a lot of them. Yeah, Dylan, my middle son. My sister Laura, Joseph, Maddie, Marcy. Who did I miss? Sue. Mother-in-law, you'll see her cruising around town on a new scooter. We're gonna get an orange flag on it because she drives like a bat out of hell. Anyway, that's all I have to say. It's been an honor and privilege. I'm really looking forward to the speaker, and thank you so much, Marcia. You're always doing an amazing job. Thank you, Rotary.
Thank you, Drew. You might want to get a spreadsheet for your kids, because there's a lot going on there. Thank you. We appreciate all you've done for our community. You really have led us with such grace, and we are very grateful for you. Thank you. So before we introduce our entertainment, who's going to be coming up here, I want to share a little bit about the bunny bags you see on your table. These wonderful bunny bags have been a tradition for this breakfast for years and years and years and years. They're carefully created by artists in Glaffy Carr's class at Del Air Elementary School in Weisburg, and we love them. So please don't take them home, because these beauties are going to be delivered back to the kids today in a Brinks art truck, you know, those fancy trucks, right? And they will be nestled inside their backpacks to go home and go on the mantle at my house until like May, June, maybe, I don't know. And then they're going to go in a Rubbermaid tub. In about 15 years, Mom's going to call little Jimmy, who's a lawyer in the East Coast, say, will you come please get this tub of crap from elementary school? We are downsizing. So don't take the bunny bags home, because we all have to make that happen collectively. All right? Everybody good? Okay. Awesome. So it is now my pleasure. Rotary has what's called Pageant of the Arts. We have local youth compete here in El Segundo and beyond our borders. And the winners go on to compete in the District 5280, which is all of LA. It's a huge district. And our winners will be competing in just a few weeks in, I think, Pasadena, somewhere up there. So our first entertainer this morning is the winner of our vocal competition at the Rotary Pageant of the Arts, Rebecca Salter. So Rebecca's getting ready to sing for you right now. Hold on, she's connecting her equipment. So let's talk. It's all good. Who would like to sing? Anybody? You're all good, Rebecca. You're good? Okay, Rebecca.
Hold on. I thought it connected. But
It's connected.
okay. Okay.
She's going to pick up the mic, I think.
Sure. Yeah. I can use it. Okay. Okay. There we go. Perfect. Se tu momi, se tu sospiri, sol per me, gentil pastor. O dolor de tui martiri, o diletto del tuo amor, ma se pensi che soletto io ti deborri, amor. Pastorello, se soggetto facilmente a ti ingannar. Pastorello, se soggetto facilmente a ti ingannar. Facilmente a ti ingannar. Bella rosa purpurina, oggi Silvia sceglierò con la scusa della spina, doman poi asprezzerò, doman poi asprezzerò, ma degli uomini il consiglio io perché non seguirò, non perché mi piace il giglio, gli altri fiori sprezzerò. Se tu momi, se tu sospiri, sol per me, gentil pastor. O dolor de tui martiri, o diletto del tuo amor, ma se pensi che soletto io ti deborri, amor. Pastorello, se soggetto facilmente a ti ingannar. facilmente attingono. Thank you.
Wow. Rebecca, you are incredible. Incredible. Rebecca is a junior at El Segundo High School. So that girl has incredible things ahead of her. And mom is here with her today. Congratulations to you as well, Mom, because I know how nervous you must be sitting there every time she sings. No need to be nervous. She's fabulous. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next performer, Caleb Sy. Am I saying that right, Caleb? Who is going to be playing the violin, and his accompany, I can never say that, his piano player, Lorenzo. So please welcome Caleb and Lorenzo.
Hello, my name is Caleb Sy, and I will be playing part of the first movement from Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E.
Wow, absolutely remarkable. Thank you, Caleb. That was beautiful. Thank you, Lorenzo. What an incredible performance. Another junior at El Segundo High School. It's just remarkable. So thank you. Thank you both for being here. It was fabulous. We wish you a wonderful experience at the district competition. You both are going to do fabulously, and just have fun. Have a lot of fun. Right? Have fun. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Rotarian Mike Briney for the Good Friday breakfast scripture reading. Mike has a new knee and I have a new hip, so we're just kind of getting along here, aren't we?
We're a match made in heaven. And again, thank you to Kevin and Rebecca, Caleb and Rebecca, I'm sorry, for helping set the tone for a wonderful day and for the spirit of the day. The following comes from the readings of Matthew. When the morning was come, and all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate the governor. And Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, Art thou the king of the Jews? And Jesus said unto him, Thou sayest. And when he was accused of the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then said Pilate unto him, Hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee? And he answered him to never a word, insomuch that the governor marveled greatly. Now at the feast, the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they would. And they had a most notable prisoner named Barabbas. Therefore, when they gathered together, Pilate said unto them, Whom will ye that I release unto you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? And when he sat down on the judgment seat, his wife said unto him, Have nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? And they cried, Barabbas. Pilate saith unto him, What shall I do then with Jesus, which is called Christ? And they all say, Let him be crucified. And the governor said, Why? What evil hath he done? And they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could not prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water, washed his hands, and before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it. Then released he Barabbas unto them, and then he scourged Jesus, and he delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus unto the common hall, and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers. And they stripped him, and put on him a scarlet robe. And when they had plaited a crown of thorns, they put it on his head, and a reed in his right hand. And they bowed the knee before him, and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! And they spit upon him, and took the reed, and smote him on his head. And after they had mocked him, they took the robe off of him, and put his own raiment on him, and led him away to be crucified. And as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name, whom they compelled to bear his cross. And when they come to the place called Golgotha, that is to say, the place of a skull. And they gave him vinegar to drink, mingled with gall, and when they had tasted thereof, he would not drink. And they crucified him, and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, that they parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture they did cast lots. And sitting down, they watched him there, and set up over his head his accusation written, This is Jesus, King of the Jews. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, that is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? For some that stood there, when they heard that, they said, This man calleth for Elias. And straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. And the rest said, Let us see whether Elias will come to save him. And Jesus, when he cried again with a loud voice, he yielded up the ghost. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain, from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. Now when the centurion and they that were with him, watching Jesus, saw the earthquake, those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, Truly, this was the Son of God. And when the even was come, there was a rich man of Arimathea named Joseph, who also himself was Jesus' disciple. And he went to Pilate and begged for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be delivered. And when Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in clean linen cloth and laid it in a new tomb, in his own tomb, which had been hewn out of a rock. And he rolled a great stone at the door of the sepulchre and departed. In the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. His countenance was like lightning, and his raiment white as snow. And for fear of him, the keepers did shake and became as a dead man. And the angels answered and said unto the women, Fear not, for I know that ye seek Jesus, which was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen. Come and see the place where the Lord lay.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing. It is now my pleasure to introduce Lily Craig, who will share information and some little backstories about our wonderful speaker. Lily, it's all yours.
All of us with knee replacements. Those stairs are horrible. So good morning, everybody, and a very blessed Good Friday to you all. I have the privilege of introducing today's speaker, my friend, my sweet friend, Mary Cooper. Mary's impressive bio is in your programs, but I wanted to share with you how I met Mary. So in early 2023, I received an email from a friend of mine who used to be at the Chevron refinery on the leadership team, and he said that his daughter's best friend had a internship here in Southern California, Hawthorne, and wondered if I knew anybody who had a room to rent for her. And I did, and I had a friend who lives in Hawthorne, and she often rents a room. So I said, send me her resume, and let me take a look at it. So he did. But he also sent me her father's resume. So as I read through Mary's resume, I'm like, oh my God, this girl is amazing, right? And her father's resume was equally amazing. He was in the Coast Guard, and he did search and rescue after Katrina. So after I read the resumes, I'm like, send her to me. She can stay with me. So Mary someday will be an astronaut, and I figured I get to be at the launch if she stays with me. So anyway, so I had her living with me, and that way she could save money for her future education. When I first spoke to Mary on the phone, she said to me, you won't even notice my disability. And she was right about that. She doesn't let her disability get in the way at all, but not notice it. She showed up with a dress, so of course I noticed the artificial leg, right? That was not hard to miss. So I enjoyed having Mary as my house guest for several weeks. It was like having a daughter at home, and I loved it. But before I bring Mary up, I have to tell you this funny story about Mary. And Mary has a great sense of humor, so I know she won't be mad at me, right? Because she won't be mad. So Mary left El Segundo several weeks after she stayed with me to go to Oxford. And after she left, I had bought new bedroom furniture for the guest room, so Costco came over to deliver it. So they come over and they're taking out the bed, and I had the vacuum cleaner ready, because we all know that when you take a mattress off, there's going to be a lot of dust bunnies out, under the bed. So I was ready. So the guy takes off the mattress, and I gasp. Not because there were dust bunnies, there was a leg underneath the mattress. And I'm like, oh, I go, wait, I got to take a picture of that. And the delivery guy goes, me too. So, with that, I'd like to introduce you to the amazing Mary Cooper.
Thank you, Lily. That is very kind. You guys will come to find I have some legs to show and pass around later too for you guys to see. So I just throw my legs anywhere. If anyone will take it, feel free to grab it. First off, Rebecca and Caleb, that was amazing. I'm an engineer for a reason, so you guys can be grateful that I'm not going to be displaying my musical talents. But that was incredible. If I could do that, I would definitely belt that out all the time and be going. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited to kick off this Easter weekend with you all and get to be here. It's a big honor. Like Lily said, my name's Mary Cooper. I'm 24 years old, and I'm currently living in Hermosa Beach, California, so just down the street. But I actually graduated from Palos Verdes High School, so not too far away. And I've always loved to be a member of the South Bay. I don't know about you guys, but I've always learned best from stories. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of winging it up here. I'm gonna kind of just tell you guys a little bit about my journey. And if you guys know anything about aviation, you might know that a pilot is just as good as their best story. And in aviation, we have a saying that us pilots will never let the facts get in the way of a good story. And so I do have some photos to share as I go sharing my journey with you guys, try and keep me truthful and honest so I don't get off task too much. And with that, we can jump into the first slide here. And like Lily mentioned, I'm a military brat. My dad is not here today, so I can say this, but my dad is like way cooler than I will ever be. I would probably spend half my life just trying to be half as cool as him. I can't let his head get too big, so I can never say that in front of him. We got to make sure the head fits in the helicopter cockpit. But my dad is a search and rescue pilot in the U.S. Coast Guard, so I grew up around this beast of a helicopter called the Dauphine, following my family back and forth around the coast. It was a wonderful way to grow up and to be really surrounded by aviation, and I'm super duper grateful for my military family. At the core, though, behind all the helicopters and the American flags and the uniforms, at the core of being a military brat is like really family. That's what it really comes down to. From the moment I was born to the moment I left for college, I was moving about every 2 years. And so really the constant feature in my life was my parents and my sister. And so they become not just your like birth family, but your actual friends, the people you lean on, and because of that, we're super close and really tight. And if you guys want to remember like one thing from today, it's that you got to find your team and you got to find your family, whether or not it's your birth family, people you choose, or you find your friends. And it really warms my heart to be here today because I look around and I see that you all obviously have a great community and a great family. So if you want to zone out for the rest of my speech, go ahead. You can just take away that one little piece. There's a great saying that my family always repeats that is, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. And so that's something that I've always really carried, and I really value my family and my military family for sure. Next slide, please. So the other piece that's really big about me that you might have noticed when I walked up here is I have one leg. So I was born super sick. I was born and they weren't exactly sure what happened. They told my parents I probably had a week to survive, and my parents were like, okay, we'll bring her home. And then I didn't die, and they were kind of like, whoa, that's shocking. And so it was a big thing. My parents were like, are you sure? She seems okay. And it turned out I just had some serious problems on the left side of my body, and it ended up resulting in me needing my leg amputated when I was around 10 months old. That photo there on your guys' left is one of the only photos I have with 2 legs, actually. But as I stand in front of you today, I'm an amputee on my left leg. And so as you can imagine, I grew up in and out of the hospital. I ended up having around 9 surgeries from the point of 10 months to around 17 years old. And I spent a good chunk of my life in a wheelchair. I feel really grateful, though. If you look at where I started, I've been in this transition of like the wheelchair life to the most basic prosthetic you can possibly imagine. It was basically like a block of wood. To now, I'm the very proud owner of around 5 or 6 high-performance carbon fiber legs. And so it's been this amazing growth journey for me, not only of like resiliency and like learning what my passions are, but also just riding this wave of technology. And it's pretty cool. I get to do some like public speaking sometimes, and I always like looking out at the crowd when I'm like talking about my surgeries and stuff, because I feel like people are always like have this face of like, oh my God, like this poor girl. All the moms are always like, this poor baby, you know? And it's funny because I look at these photos and I see a Mary that's like in for so much adventure, and like in my disability like is really part of just who I am, and it's a huge part of my story, and it's something that I wouldn't be the woman I am today unless I had those stories or those experiences and those memories. And so it's something that I really look at as a strength. And I think when I tell people that my disability is like one of my favorite things about myself, they're like say that again, sort of thing. And it's true. It's like really what I have grown to be and become. And so in these photos, you could see some of my legs here. It's really driven me to, I think, become a problem solver and led me to just grow up tinkering with my prosthetics. When I wanted to learn to ride a bike, I was going to college and I was like, I need to know how to ride a bike. I started just duct taping my prosthetic to the pedals. That worked really well for pedaling. It did not work well for stopping. So we had to learn, you know? When I wanted to go to high school formal for the first time, I was gonna wear high heels. I'd never worn high heels because the prosthetic is like fixed at 90 degrees. There. It's like fixed at 90 degrees here. I had to learn how to like design a foot that can move the ankle and actuate and stop at a high heel spot. And so for me, like prosthetics and my disability was just forcing me to kind of have this creative mindset. And like I would say creativity is a very formative part of my disability. And so it caused me to become this natural problem solver. And nowadays, I think a lot of people would use the word engineering. And without like knowing it, it kind of caused me and forced me to be pushed into engineering. And it was something that was a big blessing in disguise for me. But I do have some of my legs that I wanted to like pass around and just show you guys. Like Lily said, you know, I always tell people that if I saw someone and I was able-bodied, and if I saw someone walking down the street that looked like me, I would have so many questions and curiosities. And I really like to look at my disability as a way to teach people on what I think it really means to be disabled. And so I want people to have the chance to interact with the prosthetics, interact with me, and like realize that being disabled is just part of what I am. So I'm gonna pass them around. This is an example of just like a general walking leg. You're gonna have carbon fiber on the top, and then the foot itself is carbon fiber. And they put this super fancy shell on it that just kind of protects it. They'll make it look skin colored, or you can use like a black one. I like the all black carbon fiber because I'm an engineer, so I tend to do that. But I'll pass this one around. This is just the average walking leg. The other one I'll pass around is a foot, so you can also swap out the feet on the prosthetic socket. And this is a really fancy foot. It has hydraulics in it, and it allows me to like skateboard or surf or things like that where you might need some more ankle movement than that fixed 90-degree one that you saw. So they're very heavy, so you can also feel that. I have to lug them around all day, so I know. And then this one, so when I first moved to California, like I said, my dad was in the military. We spent most of our life on the East Coast. We were stationed up and down the East Coast. And then I remember when I was 12, we were told that we were gonna be stationed in California. And I was like, the beach. I was just like, that's it. Like, that's what I wanna do. I wanna spend all my time at the ocean in the sand. And if you guys know anything about like cars or robotics, they don't tend to like sand and they don't like the salt water, right? And so I had to go to my doctors and work with them to design a prosthetic that was gonna be able to go in the ocean and we weren't gonna worry about as much. And so this is what we came up with. It doesn't have as much of like a foot shell or the rubber part because you don't want sand and water to get trapped in there, so it allows the water to flow back and forth. It's much more rigid, so it's not very comfortable to walk in, but it's super great for like going in the water, stuff like that. I tend to play beach volleyball in Hermosa every weekend, so if you see this leg around there, that would be me. And then the last one that I always wait to show is like the fan favorite. Whenever a kid asks me like if I have a leg, I know they're always about to ask if I have a running blade, because that's the fun, bouncy one that everyone loves. This is a great leg. I got my first running blade when I was like 15, and it was a really transformative time for me. Before that, I hadn't really had the chance to run. And like, there were so many things growing up that were hard at times. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like being disabled, there were moments of tears and sadness and like wanting to run and play tag, and I just wasn't able to do it like the other kids. And I think a really important lesson that my parents taught me was that I can do anything anyone else can, I might just have to do it differently. And it was really an important motto that I've carried throughout. And so my parents were always like, yeah, you might not be able to run just by like going and running, but if you put on this leg, you can do it, or like different things like that. And I think my parents really empowered me to have a mindset of challenging the requirement and being like, how can you get this done, even if it's outside of the normal box? And I think this leg is a really good example of that. If you didn't know what a prosthetic running blade looked like and you were trying to design one, you would probably design something that looks a lot like your guys' legs. And this is a good example of where getting outside of the typical human body form and letting that creativity flow in engineering can lead to something that's better than the actual human body. These legs are designed like cheetahs because they tend to be faster than the average human leg. And so it's one of those examples where like by designing outside of the normal range and like kind of having this inclusive accessibility mindset, you can actually design something better that's just than just a normal average foot. So I'll pass this one around. This one's fun. If you guys want, you can like push on it and like feel the bounce. You will not break it, I promise. We can go to the next slide. And so, like I mentioned, I kind of got to ride this wave of technology. And without realizing it, I slowly became an engineer. I was also just a nerd in school, I'm not going to lie. I was a huge nerd. And I spent a lot of time in my life focused on tinkering the legs, working on them. And I slowly found myself in college. I was grateful enough to get to go to Stanford University, where I studied aerospace engineering and computer science for my undergrad. And I loved it so much, I decided to stay for my master's and study aerospace engineering. I have this slide up here, though, because all of that sounds really cool. And like whenever I tell people Stanford, they're like, whoa, that's so sick. And I'm like, yeah, it was great. But what really made it for me was the people. If I had to pick any reason, like, to be honest, when I chose to go to Stanford, I chose it for all the wrong reasons. I chose it because of the name. It was like, when I got into it, I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, I got into Stanford University. And she was like, are you sure it's Stanford? Like Stanford? And I was like, I swear, it says Stanford. She's like, send a screenshot. But I was like, yeah, that was that. And it was by far the best school I got into, so I was like, I'm going to go there. But if I had to choose a reason to stay, and the reason I did stay was because of the people. I think you can get a good education anywhere, but these people on the screen here really believed in me. And between watching my dad fly, the late nights studying, being on the rowing team at Stanford, and my disability, I kind of decided at some point in my life that my goal was really to be an astronaut. And it took me some time to like speak that aloud because I had never seen anyone that looked like me, and there has never been anyone that looks like me become an astronaut before. But it kind of goes back to what my parents told me when I was little, which was that I can do anything anyone else can. I might just have to do it differently. And so I started to look at this, though, from like a real scientist, a real engineer standpoint, and start researching like, why are these stringent medical requirements on the astronaut candidates, and like, what is this really getting? And challenging the requirement, trying to understand the motivation behind that. And so that led me to look at this from a researching perspective. And I had the opportunity to research what me and my co-researchers coined accessible spaceflight solutions. And this was the idea that by designing for all disabilities, all abilities, you can actually make a spaceflight mission not only safer, but also like have natural safety risk of redundancies built into it. So in aerospace, we talk a lot about fault tolerance, and we talk a lot about our next worst case failure. So how many faults can you take before you lose a mission or you lose a loss of life? And so by designing for people with different disabilities, you can actually make the spaceflight mission safer. A good example of this is that on the zero gravity flight that I got to go on, we had myself, a deaf individual, and then a blind individual. And one of the main things that we were super focused on is how you communicate. And in spacecraft, we focus a lot on alerts. And we call them multimodal alerts, meaning that there's different ways to communicate the alert, and choosing which way you communicate it is super important. Typically, an average space flight, a lot of times what will happen is an alert pops up on the screen or a little light starts flashing. And that's great for someone like myself that can see, but for someone who can't see, how does that work? And so we started adding in haptic feedback, which is like vibrational feedback into the suits. And we also started adding sounds and different ways that you can explain the different alerts that are occurring. And it's really great because in space, there's so much that can happen. The astronauts up there have so much to take in at once. And so having different ways to communicate really builds in those natural safety redundancies in this super risk inherent field. And so that was just one example. But I was super lucky to get to go on these zero gravity flights. I did a total of 2 zero gravity flights over the past 4 years. And we had about 3 astronauts come on board with us, which was really great. Katie Coleman is there with me, and she's one of my close astronaut friends. And it was just an amazing opportunity to get to show people that not only can I do everything that anyone else can, I just do it differently, but maybe I can do it even better if you build in these natural safety redundancies. So this is another photo on the flight. People always ask me what zero gravity feels like. What I would say that was really cool about zero gravity is that when you're growing up and you're a kid, there's so many new things to experience. Your life is full of new experiences and you're taking in the world. And then you kind of become an adult, and at a certain point you feel like you've experienced everything, but you're like more intelligent, you're more aware, you're like recording memories better. And so this was really cool to be at like 22 years old and get to feel something that was brand new. It was just this experience that I've never had before. And it was super freeing. I love swimming and being in the water because I don't have to wear my leg. And this was very similar in the sense that I had movement and ability that I didn't have to be bounded by my prosthetic. And what was really cool is that we had another double amputee on the flight, and it was really neat because they were able to travel faster around and I think just adapt faster than the normal astronauts because we're used to adapting in real life. Like, I constantly have to change my gait or change different aspects because the world around me is not built for someone with a prosthetic. And so there's different ways like that that you can build in these learnings from having a disability into a spaceflight training program, which is really awesome and really neat. We can go to the next one. And really, like, to sum this up, this isn't just applicable to spaceflight. I didn't come up with this idea myself. There's something called inclusive design, and I think it's really well represented in this diagram. So I always like to point this out when I go speak. It's called the curb cut effect. And it's the idea that when you design with accessible design thinking or you're designing for disabilities, you actually make the world a better place for everyone. So a couple years ago, or not a couple years ago now, but a while ago, they made it a law that all curbs need to have curb cuts in it. And this was really for individuals with wheelchairs. Because I can tell you, it is such a pain to try and have your dad like get the wheelchair up on the curb and stuff like that. So it was a big change. But it ended up being amazing for cyclists, moms and parents with strollers, delivery men, you name it. It was a game-changing aspect. And it was one of those things that when people were advocating for curb cuts, they didn't even think to mention these things. They were just focused on the wheelchair. But it ended up becoming such a huge, like, benefit for all of humanity and all of society. And so it's taking this idea and applying it to niche subjects. And in particular, I wanted to apply it to a place that is super risk adverse, which is human spaceflight. You can go to the next slide. So in addition to doing the zero gravity flights, I didn't really, I guess, introduce that, but I got to do 2 zero gravity flights. That was really awesome. It was really special. I told you guys the feeling. I was really lucky to get to become the first disabled crew member in zero gravity, which was an amazing experience, and kind of take that and start running with it. I'll be honest, the first zero gravity flight I did, like, I wanted to go like test all this amazing technology, and like everyone that was sponsoring the flight, like all the scientists and NASA and everyone was like, no, like we just want this to be like, we just want to be like, make sure you're okay. They were so stressed and so worried, and like, so it was more of a proof of concept, and a lot of my life has just been proving to people that I can do what I already know I can do. And so I'm excited to see where this keeps going. So from the first zero gravity flight, I got to do a second iteration, and then the organization, my co-researchers and I have done a total of around 6 or 7 zero gravity flights with different disabilities to test all sorts of different accessible solutions and different proceduralized space flight solutions that we could put into actual space missions to make them safer. In addition to that, I also got to do this thing called an analog astronaut mission. And now bear with me while I explain this, because people are always like, what does that mean? But an analog astronaut mission is when you live in isolation on Earth, pretending that you live on another planet. So they will build like an entire base that looks like the moon. And it's to help us practice for when we want to set up a lunar base or we want to set up a civilization on Mars. And so I went and lived with this crew of 5 or 6 people in isolation for around 22 days in Poland. They have a mock-up of the lunar surface there. And so we did not get to leave the base or see the sunshine for 22 days. We would put on EVA suits, which are like suits that you go outside of a spacecraft in. They're like an individual spacecraft around your body to go onto the lunar surface. And you can't go during the day because the radiation would be really intense. So only at night, only ate freeze-dried food. We grew a lot of our own plants and stuff like that. These were our bunks that we slept in. And it was really a great experience. The NASA equivalent in Europe is called the European Space Agency, and we call it ESA. And so they were helping run this experiment. And one of the like really big takeaways that I can share is that we were looking a lot at these spacesuits and like how it's going to be for me to put them on with my prosthetic. And I'll be honest with you guys, just getting skinny jeans on is hard with the prosthetic. So I was a little like, yeah, this is gonna be a challenge. We're gonna see how it goes. And one of the hardest parts of that is I can't actuate that ankle, right? It's like fixed at 90 degrees. So you gotta like shimmy everything on. And a lot of times spacesuits have multiple layers. You have like a base layer, a bladder layer, and it's like pressurized. There's a lot to it. In particular, the EVA suits, when you go outside, have even more layers. And so we were super focused on like, how is this gonna work? And it took a lot of shimmying, a lot of practice. But one of the really cool takeaways was I was able to actually actuate my knee and protect my leg better in the spacesuit because I had this carbon fiber shell of my prosthetic around my stump. And so now they're doing research to figure out how they can put carbon fiber technology into every single spacesuit to help provide the astronauts more structure because you're losing muscle and bone density while you're up in space. And so there's all these different aspects that you don't really think about till you have this diverse team working on a project. And so that's just one example of like the analog mission. You can go to another slide. Yeah, these are some photos of us on the lunar surface. We had this really cute rover. We called him Rovy. And so we worked on code for him, and we're driving him around and controlling him. That's our airlock. So you would go into the airlock, and they would change the pressure, and then you would go outside. And then this is us getting desuited and suited. To get suited up, it was probably about a 3-hour process that we would do. And then you would go outside, and then you would come back, and this is really gross, but you would be soaking wet from the sweat because the suit is so intense, and you're really sweaty. And we also have very limited water, so you're only showering like every 4 days. It was a time. It was a great experience. It's like the most intense camping. My mom was like, I would never do that. I was like, yeah, that checks out. We can go to the next slide. And so really, my last slide here is that I want to leave you guys on is kind of like where I am today. So nowadays, I work at a major aerospace company in the area, and I'm working in mission control there for them as like a pilot for a spacecraft. And to be honest with you guys, I am not an astronaut yet. There's a difference between doing zero gravity flights and going all the way to space. There's like different thresholds there. And I'm gonna be super frank, I don't know if I will ever get to become an astronaut. It is like one of the hardest things, most selective criteria to do. But another really important lesson that I've learned in life is that you get to define your own success. And you get to kind of figure out how you go about deciding whether or not you're successful. And so I really got to put my metric of success not on myself becoming an astronaut, but how I can make human spaceflight more accessible for everyone and just safer in general. And really, it's been a big lesson to me in looking at my obstacle and being like, how can I make that my greatest strength? And you guys might be wondering, like, how does this super niche story of military and disability and aviation apply to everyone here? And I'll be honest, like, I don't think it's in the details of our story that really matter. Like, if you compare everyone's details, they're gonna be different. We all live very unique lives. But I think what really matters is how we respond to our obstacles. And so I was really lucky in the sense that I had a great team supporting me, and I got to have this ability and the support to look at my obstacles and make them some of my greatest strengths and some of my greatest victories. And so I hope you guys can try and do the same today. But I really appreciate everyone letting me come talk. You go to the next slide. I always have a question slide up too. A lot of times I go speak at like elementary schools and stuff, and I always feel like the kids are like, oh my God, she's so scary, like she went to space and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm just a normal human being. So like when I was a kid, I would do embarrassing stuff like pick my nose. I jump out of like planes sometimes to give my mom lots of gray hair. I like to make TikToks with my little sister. I went to the Taylor Swift concert and made an embarrassing amount of friendship bracelets. I like to take 0.5 photos. And as I shared with you guys during my story, like I always tell people that like I wear my disability on my sleeve, and I want it to be a learning opportunity, and I want it to be the chance for other people to rebrand their perspective of disability. So I'll be hanging around after, and if anyone has any questions or wants to return my legs to me, that would be super appreciated. But I would just always here if anyone has anything in the community or wants to talk, or you know someone that's maybe struggling with a disability, I'm always here, and I want to be a resource for people like that. So thank you guys. Oh, okay.
Mary, you're incredible, absolutely incredible. On behalf of Rotary, I want to present you with our 4-way test challenge coin. The 4-way test was developed in 1943 of the things Rotarians think and do and say. And it is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendsps? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? So we would like you to have that 4-way test.
Thank you very much.
And thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. It'll go on my desk.
Okay, good. Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mary. Big hand for Mary. Mary, I've been in a space shuttle before too. I went to the planet of Endor, and droids were driving it, and then we had a churro. So, nobody? Disneyland? Anybody? Nobody. But I did have a thought. You were talking about your leg that can't do the heels. You need to see Weird Barbie.
Yeah.
Right? Anybody see Barbie? Okay. Weird Barbie will help you out. So thank you very much. before our benediction, I want to thank our sponsors and attendees for being a part of the 57th annual tradition. You all are helping this tradition continue for 57 years. And Mayor Boyles, thank you for lending your name to this for so many years, and we are very grateful for you. So first, our sponsors, Chevron, the Douglas family and Douglas Mortuary, the Swanson family. Ron has supported this event for years, and he is retiring after 48 years. So where's Ron? There he is. So thank you, Ron. We appreciate you. Of course, our friends at 1-800 Got Junk, Nickel Real Estate Group. Thank you, Scott. The Cadman Group. Neil. Neil is hosting several folks from Park Vista, which is wonderful. Nice to have you folks with us as well. St. Michael's, the Archangel Episcopal Church, VIP Inc., the Kiwanis Club, our friends from Kiwanis. They have a Chili Palooza coming up. Don't miss that. The Jacobson family, the El Segundo Firefighters, EDCO, the Carr family, City of El Segundo, and the El Segundo Unified School District and Ed Foundation. Thank you all for helping this happen. We also want to thank Ed Lynch and Michaels for the coffee and the cookies. They left a cookie on each of your sites. They'll be opening up their Michaels Cafe soon on Aviation Boulevard, so check out the Michaels Cafe on Aviation Boulevard. We want to thank the Zimmerman folks, Zimmerman Automobile Drive Museum. You guys are great. Thank you for hosting us today. Chef Alba, thank you. Sinesta Select and Mary, thank you for letting us use your parking lot. If anyone parked there, thank you. And all of our Rotarians for volunteering. What a great group you are. And we are now ready for Melissa Albers with our benediction. And also, as Melissa comes up, thank you again to Rebecca and Caleb and Mary. You all are fabulous.
Please stand. Let us pray. May God bless you and keep you. May the very face of God shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God's presence embrace you and give you eternal peace. Amen.
Thank you all for coming, and have a joyous Easter weekend.